We try to project things out, but things often go haywire. No one had Daniel Jones as a top 10 fantasy quarterback coming into the season, let me tell you, man. So it's all about rolling with the punches, just trying to do the best you can, and hey, having fun while we're doing it.
All right, everybody, welcome back. As always, I am your party host, Joe Rivera, and with me is one of the preeminent ball knowers of USA Today Sports, Jacob Kamaker. And Jacob, as much ball as you know, if there's one thing that we do know, is that we know nothing about fantasy football generally every season. And that's the same case this week, brother. So tell me, have the wheels fallen off for any of your fantasy squads yet?
Oh yeah, I'm 0-3 in a league where one of the people has no idea what's going on, and I'm trying as hard as I can, can't even score over 100 points. So, that'll happen when you back Dak Prescott. Dak hasn't been as strong as I had hoped out of the gate. He really couldn't take as much advantage of that good matchup with the Bears last week, and I'm sure a lot of, Dak Prescott fantasy managers are feeling the same pain there, but that's the name of the game. We try to project things out, but things often go haywire. No one had Daniel Jones as a top 10 fantasy quarterback coming into the season, let me tell you, man. So it's all about rolling with the punches, just trying to do the best you can, and hey, having fun while we're doing it. That's why we do this, right? Because it's supposed to be fun.
It's supposed to be fun, Jacob. I can sense the frustration in your voice, and maybe in post editing we can have them say 3-0 instead of 0-3. But that's okay. It's not a big deal, Jacob. But to help people prevent going 0-3 or 0-4 in their leagues, we're going to give them some must starts and must sits for this weekend. So, Jacob, why don't you get us right off the bat? Give me your 3 must start players for week 4.
Yeah, so we'll start at the quarterback position. This is going to be a common theme. You're going to want the quarterback playing against the Cowboys if you're looking for a streamer throughout the rest of the season. So this week that will be Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. Look, the Cowboys defense without Micah Parsons has been terrible, as everyone expected, but they've been particularly bad against the pass because they can't generate pass rush pressure, and they don't really have the cornerback talent with Deron Bland out to contain these wide receivers. So the Cowboys have allowed 900 passing yards to quarterbacks this year. That's 300 per game. That's most in the NFL, and the most fantasy points per game to the quarterback position. So Jordan Love, he should have enough opportunity in that Green Bay offense to throw downfield, get a couple touchdowns, be a nice plug-and-play starter for you there.
All right, Jacob, why don't you give me Texans running back Nick Chubb and why he's a must-start this week?
Yeah, so Nick Chubb is handling most of the Texans between the tackles workload, and he should have a chance to score against the Titans. They've allowed 5 rushing touchdowns to running backs this year, and they're allowing 31.3 points per game. So I know Houston's offense hasn't been very good so far this year, but they should have a better matchup against the Titans here. And I just think that Nick Chubb is more likely to get into the end zone than Woody Marks, who's getting a little bit more of the workload, but he's the better pass catching back of the two. Marks is. And I think Chubb will kind of remain in that big body goal line back. So he has big touchdown upside this week. So I'm willing to back him in this kind of weak matchup for the Titans.
And last but not least, kind of a surprise for a must start here coming off a monster performance this past weekend is Trey Tucker. Tell us, why is Trey Tucker, of all these players you could pick from, Jacob, why is he a must start?
Yeah, so I'm bullish on Trey Tucker this week. I mean, we all saw his 146-yard, 3-touchdown game last week against the Commanders, and a lot of people are probably saying, oh, there's no way he can repeat that. That's got to be a fluke. But you got to remember, Tucker has really good deep speed. He's sort of building chemistry with Geno Smith. He's been targeted 17 times total over the last 2 games. Looks like he's kind of stepping into that number 2 receiver role across from Jacoby Myers. And he's playing against the Bears, who have allowed the second most fantasy points per game to receivers. They've been missing a lot of their top cornerbacks. Jalen Johnson, their number 1 guy, is on injured reserve with a groin injury. He will not be playing in this game. So that's going to open up the opportunity for downfield plays for Tucker. So I think that he can rip off some big gains, maybe continue to get that high-end target share, and that'll make him a viable flex play with the upside of a wide receiver too if he can break another long touchdown.
All right, Jacob, so you gave us some of your must-start players of the week. Why don't you go on and give us some of your must-sit players of the week?
Yeah, let's start with Lions running back David Montgomery. I know there's going to be a tendency to want to play him and say, hey, he's coming off a 151-yard, 2-touchdown game against the Ravens, but I would caution anyone kind of looking at that and saying, oh, Montgomery's going to be a stud moving forward, because he was still outtouched by Jahmyr Gibbs 27-13 in that game. And the Ravens defense was without Nnamdi Madubuike, who is critical to their defensive line, and they just weren't able to stop the run without him. The Browns are much better at stopping the run. They've only allowed 2.2 yards per carry to running backs this season, which is an absurdly low number. So I think Montgomery's more of a touchdown dependent flex. And I know the Lions offense has kind of exceeded expectations without Ben Johnson. So if you need to start him as your flex, that's fine. But I just don't think he has a very high ceiling in this tough matchup.
Someone who's the talk of New York is Cam Skattebo right now, but he's also on your must-sit list, Jacob. Can you tell the viewers why?
Yeah, so Skattebo is another guy. He's going to have volume. Tyrone Tracy's out with the shoulder dislocation at this point. We will not play. So Skattebo is going to have a big workload. I'm just skeptical of whether or not he's going to have the sort of opportunities he needs to be a high-end scorer this week. Jesse Minter's Chargers defense is allowing the third fewest fantasy points per game to running backs, and Jackson Dart is making his first NFL start. So if I'm Jesse Minter, my goal in this matchup is to take away the running game and make Jackson Dart try to beat me through the air. So I think that Skattebo might have a lower ceiling because of that. Maybe he'll continue to catch checkdowns from Jackson Dart. But I think this kind of tough matchup is one where if you have a better option than him, I would sit him. If he's your true RB2, like some teams he will be for, then you probably have to start him. But I would not do so with any confidence this week.
All right, Jacob, and last on your must-sit list, and this must pain you just a little bit, just a tiny bit. This must sting. Is Patriots quarterback Drake May? Why is he on your must-sit list this week?
Okay, so I know a lot of people will look at this and say Drake May is playing the Carolina Panthers. That's got to be a good matchup, right? The Panthers this year have only allowed 2 total touchdowns to quarterbacks through 3 weeks. That is the least in the NFL, which is shocking. And we just saw them shut out the Atlanta Falcons and Michael Penix. Now, I don't think that's going to happen to the Patriots here, but I'm willing to concede that Drake May has a lower ceiling than normal in this matchup. And the Panthers over the last few years have tended to be worse against the run than the pass anyway. So I think this probably ends up being a little bit more of a run heavy game plan where, the likes of Ramondre Stevenson and Travion Henderson and Antonio Gibson might do a lot of the scoring for the Patriots. So, Drake May could have a decent game, but I just don't expect him to maybe get multiple touchdowns against what is proving to be a better defense, at least fantasy wise, than we initially anticipated.